What's going on everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today's video I'm going to be doing a run through of my downhill bike, my 2020 Saracen Myst. Just going to go over all the parts. Obviously the bike's been sat idle for a little while and I just want to show everybody what I'm running. So I guess before we get to the components of this build, I'd like to talk about the frame. I've got a Saracen Myst carbon downhill frame. This frame is exactly the same frame as what you can go to your local dealer and buy. There's nothing special about it apart from it being absolutely awesome, but there's no different modifications, no nothing. And this is the frame that I was going to race at Lausa at the first World Cup. Now let's get into the build of this finely tuned racing machine. I guess where I'd like to start is by telling you about my cockpit. I run the Saracen Handlebars, which we have a 760mm wide. They've got a 9° back sweep and a 4° up sweep and just a 20mm rise, as well as the 50mm stem from Saracen. I run 3 spaces underneath, equaling to 7.5mm. I tried this last year at Lenzerheide, just wanted to get a little bit more over the back of the bike, and yeah, it seemed to really gel with that quite well, and I liked it. I use an ODI long neck push on grip. I really like the way the grips are really soft. I've used these grips for quite a while now, and yeah, I really like them. They're just soft, so I've got little hands as well, so I've always been a big fan of these grips. Moving on to my brakes setup, I use the Shimano XTR brake. Just started to use that this season full time. I really like the feel of it. Moving on to the shock, we've got the new 2021 Fox DHX2. I mean, this shock is quite revolutionary. I was using something very similar to this last year, and it really changed the way I looked at the course. You know, you could really charge into everything. So I've got this on a 375 spring, and honestly this is probably one of the biggest changes for me over the past couple of years. This shock has really sort of changed the way I ride. We've got the fork, which is a little bit more stiff, more supple, and just ready to go racing straight out of the box. Moving on to the drivetrain now, we've got the Shimano Saint 165mm crank, Shimano Saint rear mech, which is just really hard wearing, doesn't really go wrong ever, so it takes a good beating on the trail. You know, if you whack it on something, it's really strong. And I'm running a 23:11 gear ratio on the rear, so I'm only running 7 speed as opposed to the standard 10, just because we don't really need the first 3 gears. For a chain device, we've got the CD50 chain device. I mean, this has been perfect for me. It's never really skipped a beat, so it's good knowing that you've just got product on the bike that you can just hammer and just run it into the ground and it's never going to go wrong. Moving on to my wheel setup, we are using DT Swiss rims. I'm using the EX471 25mm wide, so I haven't gone for the wide rim yet. I like the compliance I get from the narrower rim. We can tune the wheels a little bit more so than we could if we moved to the larger width rim. So if we have a track that's quite slippery, quite loose on the top, it's wet, we can let the spokes go a little bit so we get a little bit more compliance from the wheel. When it comes to tyre setup, I'm using the Minion DHR2, 27.5 in the rear and 29 in the front, obviously, with the mullet setup. It's a 3C compound, max grip to downhill casing. Really love these tyres. It's just a great go-to tyre for pretty much any condition. In the rear I use the flat tyre Defend. I tested that a while ago now, and I just enjoy the way that I can really attack sections harder because the back wheel feels much more planted on the ground, doesn't deflect off rocks, and obviously you have that little bit more security for flat tyres. Seat and seat post, again, just another part of the Shimano Pro Saracen line. Just nice, comfy, small, keep it out the way. I run my seat really quite low, That's one of the main things that I sort of, every time I go to the bike, I need to check that my seat's at the perfect height. For pedals on this machine, I'm using the Crank Brothers Mallet DH. Like I said a few times in this bike check, a lot of the parts are just really good go-to parts. You know what you're getting when you're using these products, and it's just, I know I'm one of Crank Brothers athletes, so we always have good fresh gear, but honestly I could use the same pedals all year long and I wouldn't have any problems. That about sums up the bike check. I mean, what a great bike. It's took me to a World Cup win, countless World Cup podiums, and with the UCI they've just announced a World Cup schedule going ahead from September. Hopefully that goes ahead and I can get this bike back on the top step of the podium. If you enjoy this video, there's obviously plenty more videos to come in the next few days, few weeks, few months. Keep tuning into my YouTube channel and plenty more where this came from.